Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portress, and I'm joined as always by Sean Keenan.
Heidi is my sidekick.
And of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and when you say jump, I say pass the salsa.
Indeed we do. Ladies and gentlemen, with the tick on the Amazon coming in not too awful long here, we decided to jump back and look at the Tick live-action series from 2001 starring one Patrick Warburton because, you know, the Amazon thing, that's not the first time we've seen the Tick. We gotta go back. And we're doing that today with Episode 3. And believe it or not, that may not be the Episode 3 you're looking at, depending upon where you look at. So, you know, you got to look.
The title is Couples.
It's entitled Couples. Technically, from how it airs, it's 3. But, you know, if you'd like a little bit more on that backstory, why don't you be one of our patrons? Patreon.com/HMP. And it is the beginning of the month. So we do want to give a shout out to all the executive producers on this here program. Matt Schnapp, Jim Beverly, Alex, then we got Robert, RocketFace, and Jeff. Thank you guys so much for being the executive producers, bringing the brunt of all of this on, man. We really appreciate that. And everybody that's at the $5 and below level, you guys are awesome as well. We absolutely appreciate each and every one of you. And you're going to get a chance to vote on, you know, what we actually watch coming up. So keep an eye out for all of that. Chances are you've probably seen it at this point. So, but, you know, it happens, man. So thank you so much for that. Patreon.com/HMP. Remember, you do get the pre-show, post-show, and all that kind of good jazz, and an extra program here and there, and it's always worth it. I figure on average, they get probably about 3 to 4 extra hours worth of our shenanigans a week that no one else gets.
A week?
A month. My bad.
Okay.
I was going to say, how much extracurricular stuff are you doing for this show?
There's a lot of. I talking to the mic. I mean, it's mostly like beat poetry. So, you know, they may not all like it, but, you know, you're not going to like everything. That's how art works. And you just kind of
Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. You are underrated.
I just start reading books. They're like, if he's going to read a book, for God's sake, learn how to read. I bait
just
y'all
counting to 1,000,000 by sevens.
Oh, man, I was not good at the 7 timetables. Let me tell you, boy, not good. And well, I wasn't good at any of them, but 7 sure wasn't. And I was really ticked off because, like, my sister, like, my mom would be, because I was horrible at math, my mom would be kind of drilling me on those and everything. And my sister was a jerk. She would always kind of walk around the room and whatever, she would just go 21, 21. And then we got to 3 times 7. She would just go 21. And my mom goes, she's right. And I'm like, just shut up. It made me so mad. I was such a dumb student. I'm a dumb student now, so it is what it is. Speaking of things that aren't dumb, though, we like people that jump on down and email us at heromoviepodcast@gmail.com, and we've got one of those, so why don't we open up the old mailbag?
Bale's here.
This one is from our friend Justin, and it is entitled Guyver, the Dark Hero Letter. To Adam, Bruce, and Sean, first time writing to the show, but I just wanted to say that I greatly enjoyed the recent bonus episode you guys did on the film Guyver Dark Hero. I had a lot of trepidation when I first caught wind that you guys were going to be reviewing this movie. I'm something of a fan, but was pleasantly surprised by your treatment of it, which I found both even-handed and well-informed. This is the type of film that could easily be turned into an MST3K-style joke fodder, so I'm delighted that you chose not to go down that road. I think more than any other HMP review I've heard so far, this one really cemented the professionalism which you all bring to this show, which is a big part of why I listen and readily recommend you to others. Also, a big thanks to Jim Beverly for getting you guys to review Guyver Dark Hero. I actually recommended this film way back in August of 2015 when Adam had me on the Film Find to discuss Joseph Kahn's Power Rangers short, and it's because of Power Rangers that I'm writing you guys now. Bruce said he couldn't find a connection between Guyver Dark Hero and Power Rangers, so I'm here to supply that link for you and your listeners. There are two people who link Guyver Dark Hero to Power Rangers. One is director Steve Wang. As you guys noted, Wang is a special effects artist who has built creature suits for a number of notable films, including Predator, Monster Squad, and Hellboy, as well as the Underworld and Blade series. By the way, I disagree with you guys vehemently about Blade 2, but that's a discussion for another time. Wang was born in Taiwan and grew up on a steady diet of Japanese live-action superhero programs, and it was these shows that inspired him to go into the special effects industry. By making the two live-action Guyver films, Wang was attempting to bring the flavor of Japanese superhero programming to American audiences. And since the first Guyver film came out in 1991, he was well ahead of Saban in this regard. As a result of his work on the two Guyver films, Wang was actually the original choice to direct the 1995 Power Rangers movie. Wang was on set for about 3 months during pre-production, but quit just weeks before the actual filming was to begin. For years, Wang remained quiet as to why he left the project, most likely because he wanted to maintain a good working relationship with Saban. He would eventually do a creature effects work for the 1999 series Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, for which he also directed a single episode. Eventually, in 2009, during an interview for his new show, Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, a Power Rangers-like adaptation for another popular Japanese live-action superhero show, Wang broke his silence and explained why he walked off the set of the 1995 Power Rangers movie. Quote, "Because they hired me for my experience in making these types of film, but did not care what I thought about the script or listen to me on anything creative. I was treated like garbage by people who knew nothing about Power Rangers or cared to. In the end, I did not respect my bosses, and I saw the production heading towards a giant train wreck, which it did." Wang did not elaborate on how his vision of the Power Rangers movie differed creatively from what eventually wound up on the screens. However, I can tell you that I recently acquired a copy of a semi-obscure Japanese superhero fanzine from 1994 in which Wang is interviewed. It was during this interview that Wang first revealed that he was a director of the Power Rangers film. Based on his comments, it seems if Wang's plans was for the film to be an adaptation of the first season of the TV series, much like the recent Power Rangers movie from earlier this year, as opposed to a continuation of the TV series, is what the 1995 film ended up being. The second connection between Guyver Dark Hero and Power Rangers is the action choreographer. I'm going to screw this up, but here I go. Koichi Sakamoto. I think Sakamoto I got. Born in Tokyo in 1970, Sakamoto started out as a stunt double on Toei Super Sentai, the show Power Rangers is based on. In the early 1990s, as Power Rangers was taking off, Saban realized they had no idea how to shoot fight scenes and asked folks at Toei if they could lend them a hand. Because Sakamoto spoke fluent English, he was shipped off to California to help Saban out. He started officially working for Power Rangers as a fight choreographer in 1995 and continued serving in his capacity until 2002. Sakamoto also directed a fair number of Power Rangers episodes beginning in 1996, including the standout episodes Clash for Control Part 1, Reinforcements from the Future Parts 1 and 2, and Forever Red. In 2001, Saban sold Power Rangers to Disney. Disney was originally going to cancel the series because they deemed it too expensive to produce, but Sakamoto argued that they could cut costs by moving production to New Zealand and flying in members of the Toei staff from Japan to work on the show. Disney did this, and in 2003, Sakamoto became a co-executive producer on Power Rangers all the way up until 2009, when Disney sold the series back to Saban. Sakamoto then headed back to Japan, where he made his triumphant return by landing the directing gig for the 2009 theatrical Ultraman movie. Since Sakamoto began his splitting his time directing episodes of Super Sentai and Kamen Ranger for Toei and Ultraman, Tetsubuara, I screwed that up, productions making him undoubtedly...
Perfect. Nailed it.
I know I did. Producers making him undoubtedly one of the most prolific and hardest working men in Japanese superhero industry. Also, you guys probably find this amusing. In 2013, Sakamoto appeared on camera in the Super Sentai parody series it's called Unofficial Sentai Aki Harbinger, as big shot Hollywood director George Spielberton. Best wishes, Justin. This guy knows his stuff, man. So
hey, all I can say is I was able to speak fluent English in 1995, and they didn't ask me to coordinate any stunts for Power Rangers. I think that would have been cool.
Boy, oh boy, would I have paid money to see Bruce try to put together a fight choreography. That would just be...
Oh, it would have been awesome, man.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you direct with a beret on?
I wear 2 berets in case the first one falls off.
Just in case of a quick storm.
It would be just a back and forth between the Daniel LaRusso crane kick and the Jean-Claude Van Damme splits. That would be the whole show.
Hey.
Lots of head butting.
Yes.
It's called
and
giving the people
top
what
rope.
they want. Top rope.
I would have just random rope show up so people could go off the top rope.
Works for me. Thanks so much for the email, Justin. If you'd like to email us there at heromoviepodcast@gmail.com. We really appreciate that. Let's close up the old mailbag here.
Bale's here.
All righty, everybody. Let's go ahead and jump into it here. Here is the opening for The Tick.
Wild blue yonder, the front line in a never-ending battle between good and not so good. Together with my stalwart sidekick Arthur and the magnanimous help of some other folks I know, we formed the yin to villainy malevolent yang. Destiny has chosen us. Wicked men, you face the Tick.
All right, that was the opening there for The Tick, and once we do that, you know what other time that it is.
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Bruce, what do you got for the Comic Book Connection this week, sir?
Ben Edlund created the Tick when he was only 18 years old, and he created it as a little mascot for a New England comic book store named from the Adam Porter School of Names as New England Comics. And he wrote a short 3-page comic to go along with the character that showed the hero escaping from a mental institution. Now, the Tick seems to have no memory of his life before being the Tick, and indeed not much memory of anything, more than likely due to frequent head injuries. Now, it turns out the only reason Ben Edlund was ever asked to create a full comic for the character was because the comic shop made some kind of clerical error and needed something fast. Now, Sean, Adam, why doesn't anything in my life ever work out that well? Well, anyway, he only wrote 12 issues of the comic, and Hollywood came calling. Edlund went to work full-time on the animated series and never, ever again returned to comics. He did real well at the cartoon, I suppose, because more opportunities followed. He has served as a writer, director, or producer on a bunch of stuff, including Firefly, Titan AE, The Venture Brothers, Supernatural, Star Wars, The Clone Wars, Gotham, Powers, and of course, every incarnation of the Tick. Now, Sean, how come nothing we did for a year when we were 18 ever turned out this good?
Drugs.
Seriously, I picture Ben Edlund went from doing a solid for a friend at a comic shop to being one of the busiest guys in entertainment. I feel like he kind of skipped over some of the moments of desperation that creative types are supposed to suffer through. He was literally super successful right out of high school. He didn't even have to go on a reality show to get famous. I just have to go on the record as saying it is totally not fair for whatever higher power may be out there to make one man so insanely talented from the get-go. But don't you have to wonder, what if the comic shop didn't ask him to draw their mascot? He probably would have suffered in obscurity until he was 22 years old before he ever got discovered. Oh, the horror. Now, some people just have the magic in them, and I like to think Ben Edlund is one of those people. While the three of us, we have what? A podcast that sells a few T-shirts? Well, at least we get to go on stage at Dragon Con. Maybe some Hollywood types will be there looking for creatives in their mid-40s. Did you hear that, Edlund? Me and Sean are coming for you. I've even drawn a new superhero called the Dust Mite, and he's going to be huge.
Ooh. I'm excited for the Dust Mite. I can tell you right now, small print. Boom. Yeah, man. So back in 2001, late 2001, early 2002, there was an actual live-action Tick program on Fox. The animated series had gone for a little while there, and like you said, it was fairly successful. So they're like, they tricked somebody clearly and said, "What if we did a live action version of this?" And someone said yes.
Barry Sonnenfeld said yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Barry Sonnenfeld was a big part of this.
That's where I was headed with this, is that Edlund had a huge champion with Sonnenfeld, and Sonnenfeld wanted to have basically a TV franchise that he could hook his claws into, and he thought it was The Tick. And when you look at the production value, you look how much money was spent on this show at the time for something that is a deconstruction of comic books. I don't know how this would have ever been made if it wasn't because Sonnenfeld had just gotten off of the Men in Black series, and that was so successful.
Yeah.
And I don't know, did you see the production designer that was attached to most of this series as well there, Sean?
I didn't. I didn't see the name. Who is it?
It's Bo Welch, who's
wow. Now he's
Tim
a director
Burton's
himself.
guy. Yeah. It's Tim Burton's guy, and he did direct a couple of episodes as well. But I mean, this had some talent going into it in the behind the scenes side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And you had mentioned, Adam, that the cartoon, the animated series, was on from like 94 to 98 or something like that, and the animated series was on Fox as well.
Mm-hmm.
But there was some weird thing that characters created for the animated series couldn't be used on the live action series. Characters from the comics were okay, but American Made and D. Fledermaus, which were characters made specifically for the animated cartoon show on Fox. Fox didn't have the rights to use them in the live action version. It was some weird thing where the animated rights got sold off. I don't quite understand the behind the scenes, but that's why we get Captain Liberty and Batmanuel instead of American Made and De Fledermaus.
Yeah, so, and I did not know that. And of course, I can't say that I'm surprised that Wrights things screw stuff up all the time. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Of course, this is starring Patrick Warburton, David Burke, Liz Vassy, and Nestor Carbonell as well. And they did 9 whole episodes, everybody. This is the Fox that says Fox will either run your show forever or you'll be done in half a season.
And they only aired 8 of the episodes. So that 9th one is just a bonus for those good folks who bought it on DVD or whatever.
Indeed. So we'll be reviewing episode 3 today as far as from the air date. It's entitled Couples, and here's what the Wikipedia has to say about it. The Tick and Arthur have a good time when they start hanging out with Fiery Blaze and his sidekick, Friendly Fire. Things turn sour when Arthur finds out that Blaze treats Fire badly, and he persuades Fire to take a stand against it. Meanwhile, Blaze convinces Tick that Arthur is the sidekick and should do whatever the Tick wants. The Tick's new behavior quickly causes the Tick and Arthur to split up. Meanwhile, Batmanuel and Captain Liberty try to cope with their own loneliness, which leads Captain Liberty to getting a dog.
And in all appreciation, Wikipedia, I don't think Batmanuel really had any trouble with his loneliness.
No, I think he was pretty happy.
Comfortable.
That was a great whole bit where it's just sometimes I'm a lone wolf. He's okay.
I liked it too. Captain Liberty calls him up and she says something like, "I'm just lonely. I want somebody to talk to." And he gets comfortable and goes, "Oh, so what color are your underwear?"
your Liberty
I
Patties.
cannot help it. That is how I talk. Which, by the way, is the mayor of Gotham City from the Dark Knight trilogy, which I love.
Who has the best eyelashes in cinema history, I believe.
But he's always Batmanuel to me, no matter what I see him in. Was he on Lost?
He may have been on Lost briefly. It's been a long time. Krista, email us. She does a Lost podcast.
I'm looking it up. Keep going.
He was on Caroline in the City, which I enjoyed him on that program. Yes, I watched Caroline in the City. Shut up.
If I see him anywhere, I say, "Oh, Batmanuel is on Lost." I'll say Batmanuel was in the Dark Knight. He's always going to be Batmanuel to me.
I feel like he was on Lost. That sounds pretty familiar to me.
I feel pretty confident in that. And no mention of our big-time guest star, somebody that I think everybody knows is one of my favorite character actors, Ron Perlman, shows up as Fiery Blaze in the show. And, man, do they give Ron Perlman a look.
First of all, I love this whole show because everybody, save for Warburton, everybody just looks like, a normal person. They don't go, "Oh, we need somebody buff." It's like if you got a little bit around the waist, doesn't really matter. It's like we almost like that even more. It's just like you're a regular old Joe.
But that wasn't Ron Perlman's natural look for his hair, I don't think. I mean, they really they really gave him this, what I imagine is a fake mustache. They gave him the gray temples. They put the big sunglasses on him, so he kind of looks like a 1970s Stan Lee a little bit.
He does. Oh, my gosh. He has a little Stan Lee going on. I didn't recognize that, but you're not wrong.
Oh, man, and he does a good job of playing.
Nope.
I mean, the title of the episode kind of gives away what they're going for here, but they're sort of going to the well, the old jokes about Batman and Robin and what is this older man doing running around with this young boy. And, they lean into that here, don't they?
Yeah, definitely.
They do. Nestor Carbonell, it was on Lost, by
there
the
you
way,
go.
you guys.
Good call, Bruce.
And so was Batmanuel.
Mm-hmm.
As far as it always works out.
But yeah, they lean into the dynamic there of the dynamic duos. It's kind of funny because we open up, I guess, in the diner, or I don't know if that's where we open up, but we're in the diner, and we see Batmanuel and Captain Liberty having lunch with Arthur and the Tick, and they're eating off of each other's plates. And later we see them back in Arthur's apartment arguing about the toothpaste. And one of the things I loved about this show is it had this undercurrent all through it, that this was kind of a metaphor for relationships, and that it really wasn't all that much about superheroes. One of the executive producers, if Wikipedia is to be believed, a guy named Larry Charles, said he was basically trying to create the kind of character moments that you'd have in Seinfeld, only with these kind of ludicrous comic book characters.
Well, that Larry Charles, he's something else. I like that.
I kind of feel that dynamic here, especially in the diner.
Well, and then of course you got the Warburton Seinfeld connection, so it all seems to add up.
Buddy, yeah. Oh, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, man, Warburton. This is I don't know. I think this is his best role too, even though it was short and brief. Him and Batmanuel, they both get big ups here. I don't have a lot of celebrity photos hanging on the wall, but I've got Warburton dressed as the Tick hanging up here.
I don't want to.
Is it signed?
Yeah, it's signed. It says, Bruce, God bless, Spoon. That's what it says.
There you go.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, but anyway, so we get Fiery Blaze, played by Ron Perlman, and then we get his sidekick's name, Friendly Fire, which, if we're going for double entendre names, why not? And boy, they dress him in the full spirit of Burt Ward's Dick Grayson. My goodness, man, he had a little cheek hanging out in back.
They make him look, extra Robin-y, if you will.
I think that it was one of the Calkins. It might have been Macaulay, or it might have been one of his brothers, but they made that independent movie about the club kid murders or whatever, and the club kids getting dressed up to go out. This guy really seemed like he would have fit in with those club kids.
I think that was Macaulay.
But the vibe I'm talking about there.
Oh, yeah. Weird.
And anyone who's been in a relationship, whether it's good or bad, you've also probably been in that moment where maybe it was you that was pulled into the conversation. Maybe it was your significant other, but you're sort of friends with a couple that aren't getting along. So one of the unhappier members of that couple tries to convince one of the members of your couple that you're unhappy, or maybe you're the unhappy one trying to sabotage somebody else. I don't know, but I feel like we can all kind of relate to this idea too, where Friendly Fire is legitimately in a bad relationship, and he's trying to convince Arthur that his relationship is maybe worse than it really is.
Hey guys, we're garbage. Aren't you garbage too? Oh, Jesus.
It really is not hard to believe that this show did not last longer. It's so weird. It's so expensive. There's no laugh track. It's a single camera show in 2001, so it's a pretty rare oddity thing.
And it came on at 8:30 on Thursdays, going up against like Friends or Frasier or something like that.
Man alive. It had no chance.
No chance at all, man, unless they put it on at halftime of the Super Bowl, and it would have lasted 8 years, but only one episode a year. But I love this show. I love everything about it, the cleverness, especially for 2001. Mm-hmm. 16 years ago, it wasn't as common for people to be comfortable treating the wide variety of relationships out there with respect like it is now. Do you know what I'm getting at?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's
are you talking about gay people?
Well, honestly, I think in 2001, sitcoms were still allowed to like use gay people as a punchline.
You are right.
I mean?
You are right.
16 years ago, you say 2001, it doesn't sound that far away to me. But then when you think it's 16 years back and then just watch, I don't know, other sitcoms from 2001, watch a few lowbrow movies from 2001, and it's still the punchline to try to, like, it's a funny thing when you're playing a joke on your friend by convincing other people that he's gay. Like the jokes that went over in Three's Company in 1979 were still going over in 2001.
Yep, that's true.
It's weird because there's so much like revisionist crying in a way as well, because there's sites like, I want to say it's like Screen Rant or something like that, but it's just like, you'll see these articles where it's just like 15 times Friends was the most, homophobic, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, it was a completely different time. But like that wasn't that long ago though, really.
Yeah. And this is one of the first shows that I'm aware of that actually treated things with a little bit of respect. They use this superhero metaphor, but they're never making it the punchline, other than maybe the joke is that they're not even aware of what their relationship looks like, which is kind of good. They're not self-conscious about their relationship. But I think it was a bit ahead of its time in that way too.
And it's funny because the other episode that Sean and I watched as well, accidentally, had to do with a lot of the same stuff as well. That was basically like, it was like a superhero coming out story. So like,
yeah.
it's something that was definitely ingrained within this show itself.
And I wonder if that had a little bit to do with Fox's, I guess, mistreatment of the show. But, they mistreated a lot of shows. It's not just this one. But I know maybe it was Patrick Warburton. Maybe it was Nestor Carbonell. I think now the more that I think about it, it was one of the two, leads of the show there that in an interview basically said Fox purchased the rights to show this, but they weren't the producers of this show. Fox didn't own this the way they would own something like 24, or I think the Bernie Mac show was the other example that they gave. So they weren't as invested in the success of this, because let's say this did go for 5 seasons and get a syndication run. They don't have the back end on it. They just have the broadcast rights for first run or whatever.
Yeah, that's
isn't that interesting? I wonder how many Fox shows just go under because Fox doesn't care. I never even thought about that.
I think
before.
there's tons. Like there was a recent show starring the brother of Weeds called APB that was like a really interesting idea. That got canceled super quick. You remember Almost Human with Carl Urban in it? That was very interesting. Got canned real quick. There was a show called Justice.
You ever heard of Firefly?
There's a Firefly program. There was a show called Justice, which was about jury selection, which sounds stupid but was really cool. That got canceled super fast. Fox will either keep you forever or just cancel you so fast you can't even think.
Bring back Herman's Head.
Look, sometimes the canceling gets right. You know what I'm saying? Herman's Head. What's next? Parker Lewis Can't Lose?
Oh, but he did.
They lost big time.
But, they do have some cool stuff here with the sidekicks. There's even the sidekick meeting where Arthur goes, and I feel like Arthur's the guy that kind of got pressured into, let's just say, going to Weight Watchers. But he really doesn't have an eating problem. But everybody, in order to convince themselves that they're okay, they also have to convince Arthur that he's one of them, because they think he's just in denial, or there's some weird reverse denial where he gets to meet Fish Lad or whatever his name is, Kid Caboose, one of the greatest superhero sidekick names of all time, particularly given the context they deal with it in this show. And they all really, really have a bad existence, and Arthur's isn't so bad, but he's kind of pressured into saying, I have to admit I have a sidekick problem, when maybe he doesn't.
But I think that goes a lot for society and stuff as well. It's just like as bad, like, most of us, by and large, your life isn't really horrible. But if you like get down to a granular level and you're around other people that, talk about how miserable their existence is, you're gonna start thinking that exact same way,
Maybe not.
I think so. I think a lot of people get down in the dumps because they surround themselves with other people that are just super down in the dumps. So that's just. I mean, that's
I also think there are a lot of Arthurs among us, people that like explore. Maybe this is a problem, and then say, "Oh, wait, no, these guys have problems. I've just got an issue." You know what I mean? I think there's plenty of folks too that think it's bad until they see how bad it can be, and they're happy that it's not worse than it is.
Oh, it's Bob
I'm one of
Saget
those
showing
people.
up in Half Baked.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, I don't have a problem. Okay, well, we're good.
The guy's worked 40 years, and he's going to have one line on his tombstone, and it's going to come from Half Baked.
That would be amazing. You just walk up, and that's what's emblazoned forever. He would find that funny, though.
I also like this little B plot of Captain Liberty and her pet dog. I don't know why I enjoy this so much too, but the whole joke on her biological clock ticking, her not being comfortable with her singlehood, and we get that sort of juxtaposed to how Batmanuel is perfectly happy in his own skin. You know what I mean? But she's trying to recruit him into her life and goes to get the dog. Of course, leaving anything up to Batmanuel means it's not going to go well. So he gets her the bulldog instead of the chow that she wants. And life just goes to heck because, man, dogs can be buttholes.
I love like the American Alan Cummings behind the desk at the pet store.
Yes.
Because, man,
I
those
like that
people
she has
are like
to
that. Though.
get Batmanuel to go in and buy her dog for her. Because she gets banned. And then I also like how totally overwhelmed and unprepared she is to having a dog because multiple times in my life with multiple people, I've been in a relationship where I said, you know what, I don't think it's a good idea to get a dog, and the other person gets one anyway, and it goes down exactly like this show every single time.
Been there, my friend. Been there. And I didn't even get to keep the dog afterwards. Isn't that a blast?
I'm currently still dealing with one of those dogs. But I do love it when Batmanuel comes to her apartment and she says, "Can't you see what he's done to me?" And he goes, "I can clearly see you should not have a pet." You know, his grip on reality is enough to know. You got to love the character because even though he's very flawed, he is so comfortable in his own skin. He knows his own limits. And I think he's the most fun of any character on the show at times.
That's so funny, man, because Adam said the same thing off air. And I can't stand Batmanuel. I cannot stand this character.
I love him so much.
I love it, man. I love Nestor Carbonell only because he was Batmanuel.
I think that my problem with the character has almost nothing to do with Nestor Carbonell. I think it's just because it's not Deflator Mouse. Because I really like that character from the animated series, and I wanted to see him on the live action because he was going to talk like this, and it's basically a Batman knockoff, and it's hilarious. But it's not, it's not that. It's something completely different. And so seeing this version of basically what's relatively the same character made me not like the character, like immediately. I think that I got to do a deep dive into the series again because I have not seen a lot of it since it was done in 2001, which brings me to the question, which characters are going to be on the new series? Do they have American Made back? Do they have Deflator Mouse back or no?
I don't know the answer to that. And now I do know that they'll have any characters that first appeared in the comics because Ben Edlund owns all those outright, but the ones he essentially created as for hire for Fox Animation he couldn't use in the live action show about Batmanuel and Captain Liberty.
Well, that stinks because I would love to see a live action Thrakazog.
I think we all would, man. I think we all would. But here's another question about like what you could get away with in 2001 versus what you can get away with now. Is Nestor Carbonell Latino?
I believe so.
Yes.
Okay, because there was a part of me that just didn't know, and I thought, you know what? In 2001, you probably could have like a guy who's half Irish and half Norwegian pretending to be Hispanic, and it's no big deal. Something you couldn't really do today. So I didn't know about Batmanuel.
He could also very well be a like a dark-skinned Italian. I don't know.
Okay, perhaps, but anyway, I was just wondering about
Those
that, 'cause,
people exist. Don't laugh at that.
Nestor Carbonell doesn't have a heavy Latin accent, so you know what I mean. I didn't know if this character now would be called, I don't know, brownface or something. People are sensitive about casting these days, so I wondered about Nestor Carbonell.
Nowadays, I would hope that they would get somebody in like the little guy that's in all of the movies is like the angry little Spanish guy. That would be so great to see him as Batmanuel.
That would be kind of cool, man.
I can't even remember his name.
What's the name of the guy that was in Ant-Man with Paul Rudd?
Oh, yeah.
He would be awesome.
He would be great.
Either that or John Leguizamo.
John Leguizamo will do it for a nickel, but no.
Enough John Leguizamo forever.
Now, I've got a question about Captain Liberty, specifically her costume. Mm-hmm. So she kind of has the Power Girl viewing device in the top part of her uniform.
Yes,
I guess
sir.
you would call that thing a uniform. You know, it's got the little, I guess, to be crass, what people online call it is a boob window. Mm-hmm. I think that those were actually like props that were sewn into the costume. I don't think that was her actual cleavage that we're seeing.
That is correct. Yes.
Listen, I don't want you ruining my world, people. Just shut your mouth and let a man live.
Well, it is.
It just kind of doesn't look real. You know what I mean? You look at it, you can tell that's like foam rubber or something there. But I think it's kind of funny that they did that. You know what I mean? I don't know why. I thought maybe somebody's taking a shot at Power Girl here with this costume.
Was it? I mean, I also like. Was the time? Does the time match up?
Yeah, Power Girl was around before 2000.
Well, I'm just trying to because I'm just trying to remember the iterations of the outfit because I feel like there's been a couple.
Oh, Power Girl from very early on had the.
Is it still very early? Okay.
Cleavage viewing device.
Is that how you walk up to a tailor? Excuse me. Yes, this suit looks lovely, but I'd like a cleavage viewing device, please.
I also like, there's one scene where, I guess maybe when they're trying to get the hand grenade back or something like that, but Captain Liberty is climbing on her hands and knees across the floor, and Batmanuel is crawling behind her, strategically placed, if you catch my drift, because that's something totally in character for Batman.
I'm not the first person to sit there and just go, good on you, Batmanuel.
I mean, they made it totally obvious there what was going on, but once again, I love the character and Sean doesn't, so I like those little aspects to it.
Honestly, I think that the reason why I don't like it is just because it's not the Fledermaus.
Okay, well that's fair. You're allowed, you're allowed that, because I have that kind of hang up with other stuff too, but I never really watched the animated version. And I absolutely love this live action version. I've probably elevated this on a pedestal higher than it deserves just because it got such a short run. But I didn't really watch the animated. I've read the comics and I've watched the live action. And I'll be checking out not Hulu, but Amazon's show. But I don't have a lot of experience with the animated version.
Yeah, I was just of the right age.
So I know I bring this up every time the tick is brought up, but I have to bring this up again because that's who I am. So New England comics, New England press, I'm from New England. I picked up Tick when I was in high school and like early in high school, like I was a sophomore in high school. And so, it didn't come out regularly because what we found out a little bit later in this story is that Ben Edlund, every time he wanted more money for college, would write and draw another issue.
Another issue. Yeah.
And so he did that for a bunch of years. And he started building up this world, basically. It went from just the Tick to now it's the Tick and Paul the Samurai. And then it was the Tick and Paul the Samurai. And then there was like another Tick that he wasn't writing. And so it kept building and building and building. And then I get out of high school, and unbelievably, I can't believe it, there is going to be a cartoon based on this little comic book that I read in high school. And so it's almost the same thing that happened with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, is that, it was just this tiny, weird little book that just blew up. And, there's something touched about this property. And so for that show to go from, so it's a weird little comic book to a cartoon, which is just unreal, to now it's a live action show. I lost my mind. I could not believe it. And so the fact that we're able to see Ben Edlund's writing, even though he hadn't written for the Tick in years and years, I think he only went to issue 12.
Yeah, he did 12 issues, and then Chris McCullough might be his name. Another guy kind of took over, but he didn't really finish the story that Ben Edlund started. He just kind of did his own story. Right. And for a long time, Ben Edlund kept saying he was going to do that issue 13 and end the story. But, after 20-some years, you kind of don't expect to see that now.
I got to be honest with you. I don't think it's coming out.
I don't think so, man.
And, that's fine. He did his time on that show or on that book, and now he does bigger, better, badder things. Look, and that's great. And he should.
I'm to understand that Brian Hitch is going to be drawing it, so I think we'll get it in, no time flat.
Well, he actually, I bought the 12th issue when it came out, because that also was a very long time coming out, because it hadn't come out for years, and then that 12th issue hit. And at the end of that book, he says, I don't know the next time I'm going to be revisiting this character in this medium, but the great thing is that now I have become a pretty good artist because of this book.
And I want to give people like a little frame of reference. When we say it was a long time, we're talking 3 years for 12 issues, and there are indie comics out there now that take longer than 3 years to get 12 issues out. But you had mentioned Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The Tick has its first issue around 91, 92, which is when animated turtles are kind of peak turtles. We've already gotten maybe 2 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies.
It isn't 90, 91, man, because I'm a sophomore in high school and I graduated in 91. So you got to think that it's probably 89, 90.
Well, Ben Edlund was born in 68. So we're talking, he's 18 years old when that first issue comes out. So 68 plus 18, that's putting us at what, man? That's putting us at 86 when he's starting on this? Wow. Yeah, a little earlier than I thought. But 94, I know, is when the cartoon picked up. But I do have to wonder, 94 is when we get the animated series. And, that's when his career really starts moving fast. Mm-hmm. And I have to wonder how much of that isn't somebody trying to find the next Ninja Turtles. They're both out of New England. They both have kind of similar backstories. And you just have to wonder, because Sunbow, I think, was the animated company that picked it up, and they're not like a huge company. They've done other stuff, and they had glory days back, in the time of G.I. Joe. But at this point, they're picking something up for cheap. They're producing it. They sell it to Fox, and that's, where people get to see it. But you have to think they were maybe taking more of a risk than they would have if Ninja Turtles had never been a thing before this.
Very true. I agree with you.
And you got to realize
both
that
of them parodied. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, you also got to realize, this is also the time where Fox Animation is just killing it. I mean, you've got your Batman the Animated Series, Animaniacs. There's so many really top-notch things coming on Fox as far as animation goes. So
the X-Men stuff. I mean, the X-Men is huge at this point.
And Fox actually owned the X-Men, but you got to remember, this is before there was any outlet like Cartoon Network for those Warner Brothers cartoons. So Fox was just distributing the Warner Brothers production when it comes to things like Animaniacs and Batman the Animated Series and other things like that.
But it's where everybody went, for sure, though. So, I mean, they had big, eyeballs out the wazoo on this thing.
Yeah. It was the time when, there were 4 channels to choose from for a lot of folks. So absolutely, they had a lot of eyeballs. But I think it's because Sunbow was the actual rights holder to the animated series that Fox Live Action didn't have those characters created specifically for the animated series.
So where is that Deflator Mouse cartoon, Sunbow?
It's very popular in Germany.
Thrakazog.
But anyway, man, I do think both the Ninja Turtles and the Tick were leaning really heavily on Frank Miller's Daredevil for what they parodied at this time too. So I think that there were plenty of similarities coming out of New England. I think that Ben Edlund definitely caught a break. Now, obviously, he's a success because he's good at what he does. You know what I mean? A break only is that. It's a chance. And
you can open the door, but it's what you do when that door's open. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all you got to do is say, look at Nick Carter. It's a guy who got a break and didn't have a great career. But anyway, I'm hating on Nick Carter today.
Nick Carter's where he goes. Okay.
But I just kind of think that he got a little bit of a jump start, like people looking for the next big thing. And there are probably 30 other guys out there that had a similar story and they just couldn't cut the mustard. But this is the guy who could. So it sounds like he got an easy trip. But, in reality, there are probably 29 or 129 failures from around that same time and the same kind of story.
He's like,
I mean, the cool thing about the first couple issues of the Tick is that his main bad guy for issue 1 and 2 is Superman in his alter ego. They only call him Clark. It is, and it is great.
But they end up bringing, instead of Elektra, for people who understand Greek drama, instead of Elektra, they have a female character named Oedipus. Yeah. But, I mean, it's pretty obvious the comparisons there. But back to the show here, man.
Sorry.
There's also something about Patrick Warburton's ability to channel this character that the voice actor in the animated series, I think he was good, but he doesn't channel the character to me the way Patrick Warburton does. Like I can't imagine another voice saying to me, you're on a first name basis with Lucidity, but I have to refer to him as Mr. Lucidity. So I need you around. Some of those things, Patrick Warburton is just good at his delivery of things that seem perfect for the Tick to be saying.
Agreed. Every time he goes off on his, speechifying, he's pretty pitch perfect with that.
Yeah, I like that. We do our own thing. When I say jump, you say pass the salsa. I love his incongruous statements that he makes. And obviously the writers get a lot of credit for that. But I also think that Patrick Warburton sells it really well. The idea, to change the mask for the live action show so that it doesn't cover up his face, because in the comics and in the animated series, he has a more typical superhero mask where you don't see his eyes, kind of the cowl almost, but giving him not only the mask that allows us to see his whole face, but also the puppet controlled antennae that just seem to be so awesome in this show. Those were all good moves. And it's a good way around like the Spider-Man problem where Tobey Maguire has to have his mask off through the whole movie. You know what? They just created a mask that really isn't a mask, and I think it works. I don't think there were a lot of people throwing a fit because he didn't have his eyes covered because it wasn't comic book accurate.
I was just really glad that there was a live action Tick show. It did bug me, but it didn't matter. Look, it's the Tick.
And the trivia for the show also says that Patrick Warburton kept all the Tick costumes. So I keep hoping to just run into him doing his grocery shopping at Costco as the Tick someday.
If there's
He's wearing something on Tick 2 or Ted 2.
Oh man, that would be great if he brought his own costume. Talk about another wonderkind. Seth MacFarlane had to wait till he was 22 before he got a shot with Hanna-Barbera, but still, man, these guys make me feel pretty bad, Sean.
It's going to be all right, Bruce. I know I've mentioned this a million times before, but I had the pleasure of meeting Ben Edlund a million years ago when he was still a kid. And he just had that thing to him where, he was super quiet and he's just like that kid in class who draws. Like that's what he was at the time.
Yeah.
And now I know he's completely not that, I know that he's a different person now. And it's just so weird to see him on set or when you hear him in an interview and he's almost downright gregarious now. But at the time he was the weird drawing kid when I met him and he was super nice. And it was very cool that he was, he was genuinely happy that we were fans of his work.
And I got to say, the pictures of him that I've seen, never met him in person, obviously, but he looks like a much manlier version of Orlando Bloom, which is a good look for a guy.
That is true. He is very bloomy.
I don't know anything else about the dog, Lady Liberty, the sidekick. Thankfully, the Tick opens up to Arthur and lets him know that, this is a two-way street here, man. I depend on you because I'm absolutely a lunatic. This isn't this imbalance. And not only that, but they managed to help Friendly Fire and the guy that smells like a drunk uncle, which is what they call Fiery Blaze. They managed to help them maybe set off to improve their working relationship a little bit better too.
I do like the how does he describe Arthur? Because he's not his sidekick, he's his co-hero or something like that.
Yeah, it's his co-hero. They're a duo. He's not a sidekick, they're a duo. They're partners.
Can I say the Fiery Blaze, like kind of moving in with them and everything? Holy smoke!
It was Friendly Fire.
Friendly Fire. I'm sorry. They all have the same bloody basic name. Friendly Fire, rather. Moving in and just jamming out to his music all day long. Boy, did that bring back some bad memories. Because I
also like at the end.
I've been
Friendly
there, boy.
Fire moves out. When Friendly Fire does move out, and the Tick says he left a tube of something in the bathroom, I'll be certain to return it.
4 o'clock in the morning trying to get some sleep, and all I hear is this god awful techno music just going up. I'm like, please turn it off. I'm trying to get some sleep.
You kind of understand suddenly why Fiery Blaze has to drink so much.
Yeah.
Once again, man, Ron Perlman, the greatest.
It's funny. I noticed something watching this episode, which is Ron Perlman, even under 18 pounds of makeup, you still know it's Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
He's the only, he might be one of the only actors that's true of. I mean, it's Ron Perlman in Beauty and the Beast TV show when he's Hellboy. So just having some goggles on, that isn't going to help him. I mean, he's always going to look like Ron Perlman.
He just leans into the Perlman so hard.
The mustache did wonders for him, though.
He's great. He's great in everything. But, man, he is always going to be Ron Perlman.
Yeah. I'd like to see Ron Perlman as a Wookiee in the new Star Wars movie.
Oh, man. Clint Howard is going to be in the new Han Solo. It just makes sense to have Ron Perlman in something.
I mean, he already kind of is halfway to being a Wookiee.
I like it.
We only need to put about 4 inches of hair on him, and he's good to go. Ron Perlman, we love you, but you are odd looking. But you know that. Anyway.
Well, look, when you're in Hollywood, man, you're either really pretty or you are bizarre looking, and that's why you are there.
Very true. All right, now we got to get down to it. It's the most important part of this here program. We have to find out how this comic book property relates back to our good friend Sylvester Stallone.
This is a pretty easy one this week. And thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Animal Crackers is an animated movie, the plot of which is family uses magical box of animal crackers to save a rundown circus from being taken over by their evil uncle. If that sounds stupid to you, please keep in mind that the plot to the most successful animated movie of all time is pissed off Snow Witch gets saved by normal-powered sister. Animal Crackers is released in September, and it stars the voice talent of Sean Keenan favorite, Emily Blunt. Yum-a-dum! It also stars Danny DeVito, John Kazarinsky, and Ian McKellen, all of which I have no sexual attraction to. My question is this. Where does Animal Crackers come from? Why have I never heard of this movie? I think of myself as someone who's fairly movie savvy. I just learned about it while digging around for a Stallone connection, and this happens more and more lately. Nut Job 2, Nutty by Nature? Never heard of it. I have no idea what that is. Didn't know there was a Nut Job 1. Home Again, starring Reese Witherspoon. These are all movies that are coming out within the next month. I've never heard of them, ever. Yet, guess what? I know everything about the Legos Ninjago movie. Why do I know so much about Ninjago? I'm a nerdy-ass nerd like everyone else, and sure, I like Legos, but Ninjago? I don't care about Ninjago. That'd be like telling somebody that how much of a sports fan you are, and so they just keep going on and on about professional lacrosse. I don't care. The New York Lizards wouldn't even be half the team they are without Rob Pennell. You know, there's a reason why he won the MLL Offensive Player of the Year award last year. He's basically the Wayne Gretzky of lacrosse. I don't care. Yet Ninjago has somehow seeped its way into my subconscious, and I have no idea how it got there. So I should have at least heard of Animal Crackers. There's only two actresses who, every time I see them on screen, I find myself saying to the TV, "Hey, gorgeous," like they can hear me, but they can't. One is Emily Blunt. The other one's the lady who plays Robin on How I Met Your Mother. I like what I like. You're weird. You're the one who's weird. So it's weird. I've never heard of Animal Crackers. And because it's an animated movie, that also means that Patrick Warburton is in it, because you can't animate anything without handing a paycheck over to Patrick Warburton. He plays the role of Brock in Animal Crackers. That's his second name is Brock in a cartoon. They're running out of even names to give him because he played Brock on the Venture Brothers, which you, dear reader or listener, already know. And if you're listening to this and you've never watched the Venture Brothers, I would be shocked. But you know what else is shocking, he says, in a near flawless transition? Sylvester Stallone plays the role of Bullet Man in Animal Crackers, which makes Stallone's fourth foray into animated voiceover work. When he does voiceover work, he's basically doing the Rocky voice, which is nice of the animators because they could very easily just get a sound-alike to play the role, and it would have been much, much cheaper. When I was a kid, there was a cartoon called Mask, Mobile Armored Strike Command, and it was awesome. Matt Tracker had a Camaro that turned into a plane. The bad guy had a helicopter that turned into a plane. It's basically Transformers, but there were dudes inside. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is that there's a bad guy on Mask. The character name was Sly Rax, and he rode around on a motorcycle, and his sidecar turned into a submarine. Awesome, right? Anyway, on the cartoon, that character, Sly Rax, had the voice of Jack Nicholson. And I don't know who actually provided the voice of Sly Rax, but I guarantee you it wasn't Jack Nicholson.
Christian
By the
Slater.
way, no. They couldn't even afford Slater. But here's a bit of advice. If you loved Mask as a kid like I did, I had the toys, I watched the cartoons almost every day. Do not watch this show if you liked it as a kid. Don't watch anything you ever liked as a kid because kids are stupid. I was a stupid kid. You were a stupid kid. There's only two shows that are still any good. Sesame Street and Rubik the Amazing Cube. So there you have it, Arthur and Arthur's sister. This week's Stallone connection. Now let's review this show so I can get back to my Tick fan fiction where Paul the Samurai and Clark are totally banging.
So, man, I've got my equivalent of Emily Blunt and Colby Smulders or whatever her name is.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, it's always Sarah Chalky and Alyssa Milano. Man, I watched Who's the Boss when I was a kid, and I don't care how old she gets. She can be in the reboot of the Golden Girls in 15, 20 years, and I'm still going to be, hey, Alyssa Milano, how are you doing?
You totally need to see Wet Hot American Summers 10 years later.
All right, on my way.
But like even in like Black Swan, when she's just like an aging, crazed alcoholic ballerina, you're still just like, it's not bad.
Getting it done.
All right, so here on Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. If you'd like to check that out, why don't you go down to facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast and be one of the over 2,000 people that have liked us on that page and check out that Robin rating system right there at the top. In the meantime, Bruce, what is your official Robin rating for the Tick Episode 3 entitled Couples?
I'm going to give this a very strong Tim Drake. I enjoyed this from beginning to end. And if I was going to talk about the season as a whole, it would be a Dick Grayson, man, because this season builds. It's perfect. It's that whole idea of, leave on a high note. You walk off the stage when they want more. George Costanza leaving the party the first time he gets a laugh, that kind of thing. But this is a very strong Tim Drake. I love everything about it. Love the performances. Love the characters. Love the subtlety and the not so subtlety. I like the complexity of the storytelling that it works on at least 3 different levels. Like I said, strong Tim Drake, Dick Grayson for the series as a whole.
Very good, Mr. Kanan.
It's a Tim Drake for me, mostly because I cannot believe that this series existed in the first place. Never mind that it's getting a reboot. Never mind that they're going back to the beginning with this thing. I think that if they can find the right audience with this, and if they hit it, the correctly like they did the first time, I think that this show could last for a very, very long time. But I don't know. But I'm going to give it to Tim Drake. It's amazing that this thing exists in the first place.
I'm going high level Damien only on account of this brought up a lot of bad memories for me from a personal standpoint. But other than that, that's just, hey, look, you got to, no one says you can't bring
Ron
your
Perlman
own.
ever since that time you rode the bus with him.
Yeah, listen, he's a bad kisser, that Ron Perlman. No, I don't know what that means. But no, it's good. It's very enjoyable. Everyone in this is enjoyable. It's definitely worth a watch. It's something that you can, put yourself in 2001, but it still holds up fairly well for what it is, and it's got that kind of art direction that lends itself to kind of being somewhat dated, but yet still kind of fresh enough to where it doesn't really matter, to be frank. So that's it. All right, everybody, join us next week when we talk about whatever the lovely, lovely people on Patreon have voted for us. And if you would like to vote on that, all you got to do is even $1 on up, man. You can go ahead and vote for whatever you would like us to watch, and that will be up at patreon.com/HMP. Join the, I think, 32 people now that help support this show, man, and we really appreciate those guys, and we throw that appreciation back by letting you guys tell us what the heck to do. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet, sir?
Hey, I just want to say thanks to Micah Hunter, a.k.a. RocketFace. He left me my first 5-star review for Dragon and Gallus, the sequel to Dragon and the Needles. And I just got to say, Micah Hunter has just been a solid guy, man. He has supported all 3 of my books. I want to say thanks and remind people you can go to Amazon where you have paperbacks, ebooks, 2 audiobooks. There's so much entertainment to choose from. So just go look for Chubby Wizard, Wrath of the Manticore, Dragon and the Needles, or Dragon and Gallus. They're all fun.
Do yourself a favor and drown yourself in entertainment. Kanan.
You can find me on Twitter at Hero Movie Sean. Why don't you tweet me a picture of your dog? I'm just trying.
You're really opening up a potential can of worms there, man.
Nah, it's all right.
That's going to be nothing but a stream of adorable in your tweets like the entire week, man. I think that's a good move.
That is totally fine by me. I love looking at pictures of dogs. I'm a dog guy.
I hope it's all pictures of Snoop Dogg.
Man, I expect a Snoop Dogg picture from you later this week, Leslie. So also I have a podcast called Preacher Podcast. You should listen to that if you like the TV show Preacher. And I have another podcast called Dog Eat Pod that once I am off the road, I will get back to immediately.
Very good. And, of course, my other podcast, The Film Find, at thefilmfind.com. This week I will be talking about the movie Detroit, and I will also be talking about The Dark Tower. So should be a good time. I don't know if I'm going to do those alone or with somebody else. We'll see. And, of course, my other show, Nerd Talk Now, there was a family situation, so I'm going to put that off. It's putting off, but it'll drop in the first of the week, so mea culpa on that one. But, hey, these things happen, you know what I'm saying? But check all those things out, man. And, of course, Facebook, Twitter, you guys know all that. All the links are going to be in the show notes. So join us next week when we talk about the lovely people on Patreon selection for us, for Bruce Keenan. Oh, I just married you too.
I like that.
Oh.
Hello, Bruce. You can do better.
Yeah.
Which one of us gets to be Fiery Blaze?
Keenan.
Oh, but Keenan can pull off the friendly fire costume.
Okay. That's a better point. That's a better point. We all want to see him in those shorts. For Sean Keenan, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Porches. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, baby.
I'm working on those cosplay costumes, Sean.
Oh, no.
Duck tweet, duck tweet out.